Can you hear me?
I have something to say.
Hello everyone, how are you doing today? Welcome to this episode of Project Shadow. My name's Charlie. You might know me better as sci-fi fantasy writer C.E. Dorset, especially if you're reading my new book, Crucify My Love, which is available as a Kindle ebook, paperback, and a podcast. Just search for Mask of the Gods, which is the name of the series, wherever you're listening to me, and it should be there. If it's not, please let me know, because it really should be, and I need to fix that, because it should be everywhere. But I'm not alone today. Oh no, again, he has come.
Oh, wait, it's me!
You're not going to introduce yourself as usual, huh?
Brian.
That would be my hobby. And today we are going to be reviewing Good Omens, the BBC/Netflix limited series that we watched over the weekend, and I have a lot to say.
It was much better than the horrible tragedy Bad Omens that... Oh, wait. No, we didn't watch that one.
Actually, I feel like we did.
Yeah.
That would be The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina would be the Bad Omens.
And it was quite delightful.
It was quite delightful.
Quite delightful.
So before we get into the discussion, as you know, we will do a non-spoiler discussion before we get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet, you will be properly warned before we get into spoilers. But before we do, if you haven't already rated this podcast in the app that you're listening to me in, please do so. That helps out ever so much. It tells the algorithm to share the podcast with more people. The more people that listen, the bigger the community, and the more chances for interaction we have. Oh, the glory. I feel like I want to be all pomp and circumstance because, I don't know, David Tennant brings that out in me.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like I should be all about the grandeur and the timey-wiminess.
Yes.
But, yeah. So, one thing I do want to say from the start, I have read the book. You haven't.
I have not.
I'm not going to mention the book at all.
Okay.
Because, and here's the thing, depending on y'all, we've been thinking about doing like a book club thing on the podcast, and Good Omens would be a very good book for the book club. Because it's awesome. Mm. And for those like us who listen on Audible, there's a version read by Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
And I love it when he reads his audiobooks. So, let me know if you want to do a discussion of the book, and we will do that separately. So, the one thing that I will say, the closest thing to book related that I will say in this entire discussion is, as a fan of the book, I loved the show. And you can't always say that.
That's awesome.
But that's all I'm going to say, because everything else we'll save if we do the book club thingy. So let us know. As somebody who's never read the book and was unfamiliar with the wonderful world created by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, what did you think?
I found it deliciously delightful.
And delightfully evil.
Yeah, a touch of that too.
I really liked this show. I was concerned about the casting, just because, I don't know, maybe I've never seen anything in it that, with him in it, that would have made me have a higher view of him, but when I heard that Michael Sheen was going to be in it, playing Aziraphale, I really doubted whether or not he could hold his own against David Tennant, because I have really high opinion of David Tennant. I've loved everything I've ever seen him in. And not to Doctor Who aside, like, he is just a great actor.
Jessica. Yeah.
he is. He's such a good actor. And you have to have a certain amount of charisma and presence to be able to hold your own as a counterpoint to David Tennant. And I honestly didn't think that Michael Sheen could do it. And then he did do it, and yay.
Yeah.
Like, they worked really well together. And I think the thing that worked best was the different tonal qualities of their voice, where he played Aziraphale very, very rounded. Like, all of his words were very full, and his voice was very rich and velvety every time he talked. Whereas David Tennant, who can do that, and we have seen him do that, played it very dry and scratchy in the way that he talked. And that interplay between the two really helped sell the relationship in an odd way.
And their respective characters,
yes,
as an angel and as a demon. Yeah.
The casting was good. The flashbacks were amazing. Frances McDormand as the voice of God was genius. Just absolutely genius.
Yeah.
The angels, the demons. If I have one gripe about the show, I think a lot of people who are watching this will be confused not only by the ending, but by the fact that every demon has something sitting on its head. Mm-hmm. And that's never explained or even really brought forward. You know what I'm saying? It's just a thing that's there. And I think that may throw some people off. It's a beautiful quirkiness that it had, but I'm concerned that some people may have an issue with that.
I just figured that was just part of what being a demon was in the setting, because it's a consistent thing, so it didn't really throw me off. I just, at first I was like, that's odd portrayal, but
yeah, but you and
works.
I like Stranger Things, and that's the other kind of buggity boo in here is this really could have felt like a Stranger Things knockoff with the kids.
True. And
it didn't, and that's awesome.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things, because Stranger Things has been so big on the landscape. You know what I'm saying? It's the reason why John Carter flopped, right? Because everybody was like, that's just a knockoff of Star Wars. No, Star Wars is a knockoff of it, honey. And they didn't do enough to update it so it didn't feel like a derivative of Star Wars. I think, what was it? In the Station of 1,000 Planets, Valorant in the Planet of 1,000 Worlds. I think it suffered from that problem as well, because even though it predated Star Wars, people saw it as, derivative. The Scooby Gang Kids thing could have very much felt...
Yeah, I could see that. I guess because I didn't pick that vibe up, but then again, I knew you had read it, and you would have, if that was something out of the norm, you would have I would have gotten clues. You would have gotten ranty or something about it, and I would have been tipped off, and so I just accepted it as being more true to the book because of that.
Well, see, the thing for me, when watching a derivative version of any Neil Gaiman property, I tend to give them great latitude because, one, he's often involved, and he was extremely involved in the writing of this. And he understands what works better visually as opposed to being in the story. Hi, Jinx. I don't know if you can hear Jinx. She's trying to be on the podcast right now.
Just by Madam in your seat.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. But, like with Stardust, that is significantly different from the book. But I see why Neil was insisted on some of the changes that were made, because it made a much more cinematic version, the one that actually went to theaters. And so I try not to compare books with a, made for TV version as this is, especially when Neil is involved, because he has a very good eye at what to change and what not to. But, what I was talking about is just because, with, as I understand it, the It movie, which I haven't seen because I don't like Stephen King, which is not a secret, I understand that it's very much like Stranger Things meets an evil clown. And a lot of people kind of felt that. Like, it's the rated R version of the Stranger Things kids meet a scary clown. And it's just because that series had such a cultural impact. Anytime you're doing kind of a spooky show, even if it's a goofier show, right? It's how I'm amazed that in 2 seasons that we've gotten of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, it hasn't become Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Even though you can see how it wants to go there because of the nature of television wanting to copy and paste from other places, it's not going there. It's being allowed to be itself. And that is what really made me enjoy this, is it had that kind of irreverent humor that I expected it to have, and almost a Monty Python-esque just broken reality to it. That level of absurdity that is very difficult to do and get it to pay off. It's why it's very hard to do Douglas Adams, for example, because Douglas Adams is very good at that humor and that kind of just broken, absurdist reality. And I think this hit it.
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
Anything else you want to say before we go into spoilers?
Well, for those thinking about getting into it, I mean, the basic premise is you have an angel and a demon who've been on Earth for 6,000 years, and they realize the Armageddon is about to happen, and if it does, everything they've enjoyed ends. So they've kind of convinced each other that if they could muck it up, make it not happen, then they could continue to enjoy their lives as they have for the last 6,000 years, and all the fun absurdity that ensues from there, is kind of this whole, it's a mini series, so it's a 6-parter.
Yes.
So it's not a major commitment either. It's not like you're committing to multi-seasons or...
Nope.
I mean, it's definitely longer than a movie as well. So you're committing to more than a movie, but it was just brilliantly done, and it wraps up wonderfully in its 6 parts, and it's a great job.
Okay, so let's do the spoiler thing.
Yeah.
For those of you who have yet to see the wonderful Good Omens and do not want to be spoiled by any of it, spoilers are incoming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have been warned.
And now to open the pages of prophecy.
I loved that. I loved the prophetic book.
Yeah, that was always right. The prophetic book that was always right. That was great.
That was wonderful. I think the first shout out that has to go out is to Thou Shalt Not Commit Adultery Pulsifer, who is played by Jack Whitehall. Oh my goodness. First of all, I love me some poking fun at Puritan names, because Puritan names are hilarious. And his witch hunter was wonderful. I mean, just absolutely, astoundingly wonderful. And Agnes Nutter, first of all, I love the idea of a prophet named Nutter. There aren't enough wonderful things in the world to say about naming your prophet Nutter.
Yeah.
Like that. Huzzah. Like, you get all the winning.
Yeah, there is a lot of fun names, throughout this.
The shot where we get to see them die and how she takes out all the people around her book of prophecies, which were hilarious and wonderfully well written and wonderfully well used throughout the whole thing. I can't say enough good about this. The kids were so well done. Seeing this nature versus nurture thing with the Antichrist.
It was hilarious.
Was wonderful.
The inept satanic nuns.
Sister Mary Loquacious and all the problems that she had mixing up the kids.
Yeah.
And I just think I have to give a shout out. I've got IMDb open over here. I was trying to find the kid's name. Sam Taylor Buck, who played Adam Young, the Antichrist. Oh my goodness. Like, he found a way, his acting makes me feel like he watched the original Omen. Like, not the horrible remakes or any of that, but like the original Omen. And played like that. Except for it was all fun and games in the woods. Yeah. And except for that little bitty period of time when he went crazy and released the Kraken. But he did such a good job because he really did sell the whole will he won't they, will he won't he, vibe that the character needed. You
wonder, because that was one of the brilliant things I really enjoyed about this is you have mixing up the Antichrist so that everyone's bringing up what they think is Antichrist. They're making sure to, even the angel and the demon are trying to do their bit to kind of try to balance him out. So he's not quite too evil, not quite too good. Maybe that'll work. And meanwhile, like over in this other little hamlet, like...
Except for they picked the wrong kid.
They picked the wrong kid. And Adam is actually the Antichrist being raised over in this little hamlet with his 3 friends, having little adventures in the having a fort and adventures in the woods.
Okay.
And getting to be a normal child, which was hilarious because... in a way, it was one of the things I was thinking about earlier today was actually the upbringing part, because you have the Antichrist was supposed to be brought up in a very wealthy home, so he would be disconnected from people and be dispassionate, which is
and his parents were cruel. And
his parents were cruel.
Can I just stop you for just 1 second?
Oh, yeah.
The most brilliant thing ever in visual language to get us to understand that Warlock's father was evil. You cast Nick Offerman and made him shave.
Yeah.
Like, you have... Like,
I kept looking at him going, you're evil, there's something wrong with this person.
There's nothing more evil than a freshly shorn Nick Offerman.
It just... yeah. It's purely satanic.
It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. But it's just, because it's...
But if he had been raised in that house, he would have destroyed the world.
Yeah, he would have totally destroyed the world. Because that's the thing is that, it is a problem of being raised in that amount of wealth. There's just
apathy.
Lack of apathy and lack of connection that, that usually comes with that, that people are just property. They're not people. And had he been raised in that environment, he would have totally destroyed the world. And then you get that, that fun twist of, no, actually he was raised in a normal middle-class home, with friends and all these connections and understanding of, just happiness, sorrow, all the bits of life and the joys that come with it.
Which they were able, again, to explain very beautifully through the use of the Hellhound, through the use of dog.
The use of the Hellhound was brilliant because that was like the first big critical moment, and he had to name it, and he's like dog, and all of a sudden that They don't want a big dog. I want a little dog. I want a little dog. Yeah, he wanted a dog and a little dog, and he was so excited that he thought, his dad got him a dog for his birthday, and. It's like, it was beautiful because it was like, and I did, because that's where you get that first sign that, maybe everything is going to be all right because the Hellhound is a little less evil. And then, of course, the hilarious bit when it was trying to practice its demonic acts on a cat, and the cat just swats it because the cat's like, I'm actually bigger than you. Like, as a cat would do.
As a cat would do.
Oh, I almost got us unclean label again. Same word, too.
The Hellhound really is an unspoken hero of this show. They did a really good job with him. I loved the Kraken when we got to see him. Hilarious. He was wonderful.
Because that was the other brilliant thing they did. Like, there's supposed to be all these signs of the apocalypse of that, and so instead of like them playing out exactly as planned, you get all these signs of the apocalypse still happening. Except they're just a little bit off. So, like, the Kraken rises from the depths to terrorize, except for because he was reading the magazine and was mad at whalers killing the whales and harming them. The Kraken rises from the deep and attacks whaling ship. Well, they didn't say whaling ship. They said research vessels that were pursuing whales.
That were currently experimenting to see how many whales they could capture in one go.
Yes, that's it. Which I thought was hilarious jab at
Japan.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Oops.
But yeah, I mean, this is Benioff and Weiss could learn from this show, and hopefully they will watch it and take notes, because this is subversion done right, where you have certain expectations. This child is the Antichrist, and as you're watching him grow and you're watching him develop, you have certain expectations of how he's going to act. And subversion is not surprise. Subversion has to be set up. And you see the setup really well done with him playing with the kids, his peer group. You see him helping a stranger in a car wreck. You see him with the dog. Yeah. You see the subversion being set up, but you have that moment of mad flying Antichrist boy.
Well, and you see where that could still legitimately happen, because when he's playing with his friends, he sits on a throne. And his friends are the audience around him. So he's still in this, like, And
he tells them what to do.
He tells them what to do.
Have fun.
And that's the games they play, and they have fun. And so, so when you see him, go and embrace the Antichrist side and go flying around and all crazy, it's not surprise either. It's like, oh yeah, okay.
But see, that's part of it playing into the trope that you're expecting. This is a demonic chosen one. He's going to follow a certain path, and you see him going through, and when he actually subverts the trope, it is set up even further by Crowley at this point.
Yeah.
In the story, his name changes.
He's no longer crawling.
He's not crawling anymore. He's Crowley now. When you see Crowley able to defeat the Hellfire Wall, because he's the only demon who has an imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Hastur, who's in the car with him, burns up when they hit the wall because he lacks an imagination. Again, this setting up the key difference with Adam. Adam has an imagination. He's learned to make these imaginary games with his friends out in the woods while they're playing. So he's able to imagine a different world. And he's also able to come into his own, where he, unlike a lot of devil child characters that we see in other media, he knows who he is. He's very confirmed in who he is. His family confirms him in being their son, Adam. His friends know that he knows all the best games and is the one who knows how to have fun. Life would be so boring without Adam, right?
Yeah.
He is confirmed in who he is, so that when the devil actually shows up, he's able to stand up to the devil himself, to Satan himself, and say, "You're not my father." A father doesn't disappear for 11 years and then show up
to yell at him.
To yell at me and say, "I'm not the person you thought I should be." That's all set up.
Yeah.
That's all you can see. I hate to keep going back and harping on, the failings of season 8 of Game of Thrones, but that's the brilliance of this show, is that all of the points that you need to see the subversion are there.
Yeah.
They set up Pulsifer's character so well, so you understand where he's coming from. You understand what he can do. You understand everything. You may forget it along the way, but it's all set up. When Michael McKean, who, shout out, haven't mentioned him yet, plays the wonderful Witchfinder Sergeant in this, when he calls his neighbor the Whore of Babylon, all of a sudden you go, oh my goodness, yeah, she practices all of these occult things, and she's a prostitute, duh. Yeah. And all of a sudden you realize she's been... It's subversion backwards, because you suddenly realize she has been fulfilling all of these tropes of an end-time story all along. But, oh my goodness, I didn't see it until it was just, pointed out to you. And that's a brilliant... There's so many moments in this show that I think were just absolutely brilliant and really funny. I have not laughed this much watching anything, really, in a very long time.
Yeah.
And I giggled like a mad fool.
Yeah, it's just hilarious.
It was so funny.
And I love that the Four Horsemen also, pestilence turned to pollution. That was really nice. I actually really liked that.
That was an interesting choice, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun choice too. So I was thinking of other things, going, oh yes. Yeah, I thought that was fun. You know, the world. Where in the world is the flaming sword?
That whole thing was set up very, very well.
Yeah.
Everything that they did, it was set up well. It was very well constructed. And this leads me to the final point I want to say about this series is I do not want a season 2.
Yeah, it needs to be it. It's beautifully done.
It's beautiful. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And you can see Neil not wanting a season 2 in that they have the perfect setup for a season 2 when they get Agnes Nutter's second book of prophecies and they burn it.
Yep.
Which lets them do one of two things should it get renewed for a second season, which probably won't happen. Remember, they did announce that this was going to be a limited series. So it technically should have run its course by now.
Yeah, this should be it.
But anything they do from now on is very clearly off book.
Mm-hmm.
And that wonderful little play within the show where they're like very clear about that.
Yeah.
You can't go beyond this or you're literally off book. We're burning book 2. It's not happening. I like that. I think they could do more. I think if they do any more seasons, I just want them to pick up the characters that we already know and continue bopping around in time. Mm-hmm. And see their madcap adventures through time. But I don't want that. We have so many... This is why Firefly is held in such great esteem. It wasn't allowed to go long enough to ruin itself.
Yeah.
It had a very solid first season. No, I don't mean that.
I was laughing because I was like, it was kept from its season 8. No.
Every show has one. Be it season 7 for Star Trek The Next Generation, where it got weird. Season 3 for the original series. Season 1, 2, and 7 for Deep Space Nine. 1, 2, 4, and 7 for Voyager. These shows can run a little too long and run past their usefulness. And they should have been ended a long time ago. It's nice to have something that is pristine. This show is well written, it is well acted, it is well directed, it is beautiful in and of itself. It does not need more.
Yeah.
And hopefully...
I agree.
Hopefully they won't mess it up and give us more.
Yeah.
Now, if you wanted to get this cast back together and do a completely different thing, I would love that. I think they all played off of each other really, really well in ways that I had never expected. I would love to see this cast do something else.
Yeah.
I just don't want another season of the show.
Have them do Hamlet. I'm just kidding.
That would be wonderful.
That would be wonderful, actually.
David Tennant as Hamlet.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael McKean as his uncle.
Yeah.
Ooh, like that's some serious. Yeah, do that. Do that. I'm down. I'm down. Can you imagine the girl who played Anathema as Ophelia?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That. Yes. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that. So, anything else you want to say before we wrap up the episode?
Yeah, the poor witch hunters, they're going to end up as the two friends that get executed.
You're right. It's Guildenkrantz. It's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
You can see it. It's so clear.
Yes. Very. Alrighty. Well, I hope you enjoyed our discussion. We went a little bit long, but hey, I've got a second person here, and this was a great series. If you haven't watched it, and for some reason you listen to us prattle on, go watch the show.
Yes.
Oh, it was so good. Then read the book, because the book is good in very different ways. Very, very different ways. Yeah. Love this show. Anywho, thank you for listening. If you haven't already, and the app that you're listening to me on allows you to rate this episode, please do so. That helps out a lot. If you've got a buck you can throw my way, if you go over to the show notes, wherever they are in the app that you're listening to me on, you can join the project for as little as $1, either via the Patreon link or the community support link. That money does really help out a lot. It helps me pay for everything that I do. Thank you in advance for all that. If you don't have any money, that's all right. I completely understand that. That's like my default position. But, if you know anybody you think would like the podcast, please share it with them. That helps out a lot, too. I'm CE Dorset on both Instagram and Twitter. I'm trying to do more on Instagram, I promise. I really am. It's just not my, natural state of being. I'm 42, y'all. It's not my natural state of being. I live a very boring life. I'm thinking of turning it into nothing but pictures of my dog and cats, because people seem to like that. But you can follow me on both. Hit me up over there. Don't forget that you can use the link in the show notes to send in your voice messages, any questions, comments, or topics you'd like to hear discussed on the show. And links to everything else that I do can be found over at projectshadow.com. I think that's it. Is that it?
Yep.
All right. Until next time, when I'll probably be alone, I'm Charlie.
I'm Brian.
Say it louder so people can hear you.
I'm Brian.
Oh my goodness. Don't forget, people. Have the fun. Bye.